Welcome back everybody, I'm George, and in this video I'm going to show you the first things you need to do on your new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 7. I have customization settings, I have improvements for your user experience, and of course I have lots of interesting features that are disabled by default, and that will make your new phone feel and be 10 times better. But anyways, that being said, and without further ado, let's begin with the first thing you need to do on your Z Flip 7, which is to come to the settings, swipe down to the About Phone tab, and then tap right here on Rename, because as you can see, you can name your phone anything you want. You can name it Potato. But as I always say, be careful because this is the name that everybody is going to see when you share stuff through messages or when you connect through Quick Share or any other service. So you can be funny, but be careful. Now, the next thing that I want you to do also here on the settings page is to swipe down to the battery section because we want to customize the phone to get as much battery life as possible. So first of all, I want you to tap right here on Power Saving, which is going to, if you turn it on, let you choose between a couple of settings that you can turn on or off to get a slightly better battery life at the expense of not having these things. So you can limit your CPU, you can turn off always on display, decrease the brightness, reduce motion. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to see which of these things actually affect your user experience and turning them on because, as I said, you are going to get a better battery life. Now, once that's done, also here on the main battery menu, I also want you to tap right here on battery protection and choose between basic and maximum. Now, if you tap on maximum, as you can see, it is going to let you choose a charging limit. So the phone will only charge until that point of 80%, 85, 90. So you can essentially protect your battery and get more years out of it. But in my opinion, I think that the basic battery protection is enough. So I always recommend you use basic. Now, that being said, the battery settings are not the only way to save or increase your battery life. If you swipe back to the main settings page and then you swipe down to notifications, you will be able to access your app notifications, meaning the apps that are sending notifications to your phone. Now, generally speaking, the least amount of apps you have on this list, the more battery life you will have. Every single app that's activated is going to be connecting to the internet all the time, looking for updates, and of course, that is going to burn significant battery life. So ideally, you want to check these lists and only enable the apps you actually want to be sending notifications, like your social media, your messaging apps, and maybe apps like Uber or Google Maps that actually need to have your location. Everything else, I suggest you turn off because this is actually going to mean a significant improvement in how much battery life you get. Now, that being said, I believe those are the essential things you need to do at first, but let's move on to something that's a bit more fun. Let's swipe to Modes and Routines, also on the main settings page. Let's then tap on Routines. Let's tap right here at the top on New Routine. Let's then tap on If, and right here we want to swipe down to a very specific to the Galaxy Z Flip 7 phone option called Folding Status right here. So when the phone gets folded, in this case, we can choose between completely open or partially folded, which is the one that I recommend you use. Then we will be able to perform an action. In this case, we can, for example, turn on the camera, disconnect Wi-Fi, or we can open any app we want. So let's tap on Apps. Let's tap on Open an App or do an app action. And let's select the app we want to open. In this case, let's tap on the calculator. Let's tap on Done, Save. And just like that, when we fold the phone halfway through, it is automatically going to open the calculator, which, as you saw earlier, could be any other app, any other action. In fact, I've seen a very common use is to turn on the flash. So when you do this automatically, you get sort of like a flashlight orienting to the front, which is very useful. You can use this trick to essentially perform any action you want. And of course, once you have it saved, you can also tap on it and edit the functionality to do any other thing you want. But anyways, that being said, let's move on to another essential part of the Galaxy Z Flip 7, which is the cover screen. In this case, bigger than ever and with more functionality than ever. Now, once we unlock the phone, of course, we get access to the cover screen, which we can, when we tap and hold, select between a different set of options we get by default. But if we swipe all the way to the top, we can actually unfold the phone, so to say, to access the cover screen settings, where you can add a new cover screen. Now, something very cool that I found is that if you access your gallery and select a recent photo, like this one right here of Brad Pitt, you will actually be able to create a very good looking time and date animation. So what you want to do is you want to tap on the date and time. You want to select this style right here, and then you want to tap on font and color and switch to the second font style, which has a little cool animation indicating that it's actually morphable depending on where the text is. So if we move it to the left, as you can see, it is going to adjust to the place it is on. There we go. If we move it to the right, it is going to do the same thing, essentially morphing to adjust based on what's on the image. If we move it right here, it's going to do more or less the same thing, which essentially helps you create a lot more pleasing of a wallpaper. In this case, it is not the best. It is a weird photo of Brad Pitt, but you can do some pretty cool things with this concept. And you can even right here adjust the boldness or thickness of the text. So you have a lot of customization options. Now, once you're done, you can of course tap on done right here, flip the phone again, and there we go. We have Brad Pitt on the cover screen. Of course, we can also, if we tap, hold, and swipe, select any of the other ones we had before. Now, that being said, if we come back here to the cover screen settings page and we tap on add new, there is another very cool option for a cover screen, which is down here where it says emojis. If we select emojis and then select any layout for emojis like this one right here, we will not only be able to select the specific emojis, which I think is basic, but the coolest thing about this mode is that it's completely interactable. So you can tap on the food and move it. You can essentially, I think, there we go, grab stuff. It is a little hit or miss because we also have actions for moving laterally, so it can get a little hectic, but it's pretty fun. Now, that being said, I have to be honest, my favorite form of cover screen for the Galaxy Z Flip 7 is neither the emojis or a static photo, but a video, because for the first time, I think ever, on the Z Fold or Z Flip phones, we can actually add a video as a cover screen. So essentially, when we tap on done, and we flip the phone again, we will have a fully functional video as the cover screen. And this, I think, is the coolest thing ever. If you have a couple, if you have kids, if you have a sibling, it is really cool to have them right here on your cover screen, not just as a static photo, but as a video that you can actually see in motion. It is a much nicer, cooler experience. But anyways, that being said, and before we move on, I actually have something for you watching this video.
Okay, so a lot of you know me from this channel, whether it is in front of the camera or back there in the top-down shot. But right now, I'm actually building a new channel that's a little bit more ambitious, where I will be needing some extra help. More specifically, I'm looking for a co-host to be in front of the camera with me, and I'm looking for a videographer to shoot the videos. So if by any chance you're interested in being a co-host on a YouTube channel, or you are a videographer, send me an email to this address so we can talk.
But anyways, that being said, let's get back to the video. There is a lot more Galaxy Z Flip 7 to cover. In fact, what I'm going to show you next is probably my favorite feature on the phone and the coolest thing you can do on the phone. As you can see on my cover screen, if I swipe to the right, I can actually access my most used apps tap on any of them, and use them as if the phone was completely folded or unfolded. This, believe it or not, is not something you get by default on this phone. I'm not really sure why it should be on by default, but you actually have to do a couple tweaks and changes to enable this feature. So if you also want that functionality on your phone, what you want to do is you want to swipe to the Play Store, then tap on Search. Then you want to type in an app called Good Luck. There it is on my recents. It is going to be this one right here with the pink layout. Do not worry, it is an app made by Samsung for Samsung phones, and it's only going to take a couple megabytes of your space. Once it's installed, tap on Open. Then once you have it opened, you'll see that there's a couple packages like Theme Park, Wonderland, Lockstar. These are essentially going to add additional functionality to your Samsung phone. But in this video, we are only going to cover this one right here called Multi-Star. In my case, it's already downloaded and installed on the phone. But what you want to do is you want to look for it on this list and download it by tapping right here. Once it's installed, you want to tap on the expansion pack. Automatically, it is going to open it. And then you want to tap on I Love Galaxy Foldable. Once you're here, you're going to want to tap on Launcher Widget. And boom, there we go. This is the launcher widget you saw before when I showed you the functionality. Now, what you want to do here is you want to add the most used apps you actually want to have right here. In this case, I think there is an actual limit, so you cannot have as many apps as you want. I think you can only have 12, so 444. And well, once you have selected your list of most used apps you actually want to have on the cover screen, you would want to tap on Enable Launcher Widget. In this case, I have already enabled the launcher widget, but in your case, you would want to swipe down until you find Multi-Star right here. Swipe down to the launcher. There it is. And in my case, it's on gray because it's already on the phone. But in your case, you would want to tap, then tap on Add. And that's about it. You would already have it on your phone. Once that's done, if everything went well, you would find it to the right. I'm not sure if on the first page or the second, third, or whatever, because you also have more widgets on the cover screen. If you want to make sure it is on the first page to the right, what you want to do is you want to tap it wherever it is, and then swipe it to the first place to the right. So in this case, I've moved another widget to the right. Now I'm going to do it again to have it be the first widget. There we go. And once that's done, it should be, once you swipe, the first thing you see, so you can quickly access your Play Store. You can quickly access, well, any other app you have on that widget. But anyways, that being said, let's move on once again to another exclusive Z Flip 7 functionality. So if you tap on Settings and come to the main settings page, then you swipe down to Advanced Settings or Advanced Features right here, and you tap on a Side button. There we go. You will have the option to customize a double press or a long press on the side button of the phone. Now, in this case, I actually want to show you a very cool functionality for a quick selfie on the Z Flip 7. So if you tap on double press and you select the camera, when the phone is completely folded, you will just have to double tap for a quick selfie with the phone. And you are going to be using the main cameras, so it is going to be even better quality as opposed to a normal selfie on a normal phone. Well, in this case, the lighting is pretty bad and I'm not the most attractive person in the world, but I can notice that it's a way sharper photo than a normal photo with a tiny selfie camera. But anyways, that being said, let's actually move back to the cover screen on the Z Flip 7 because there's actually more widget functionality that I can show you. As I said earlier, you are going to have a list of default widgets on your phone set up in Pages, as you can see, that you can of course tap to access the apps on those widgets. But of course, if you tap and hold on a widget, tap on Edit and flip the phone open, you are going to have the option to delete and include any widget on any page you want, like you would on the normal unfolded phone. Now, I'm actually telling you all of this because there is a really cool and functional widget that I heavily suggest you install on your Z Flip 7. So if you swipe down to clock, there we go, and swipe all the way down to the main alarm widget. There we go, this one right here. Let's tap on add. Once you access the widget from the cover screen, there we go, you are going to be able to access your most used alarm, which in this case is this one for 6 a.m. Or if you tap on the widget, you will be able to access all of your alarms, so you can enable, disable, or change anything you want. As you can see, you can even edit the alarms from the cover screen. So in this case, when you're sleeping, your phone is completely folded. You are not going to have to unfold it for anything regarding alarms. You can do everything on the cover screen from the alarm widget. But anyways, that being said, of course, this phone is a flip phone and it has a lot of flip exclusive functionalities, but it is also a very high-end Samsung phone with a lot of high-end Samsung phone functionalities. So I'm going to show you a couple things that are not exclusive to this phone, but very interesting nonetheless. If you tap and hold in any point of your home screen and then tap on settings, you will be able to select the app size for the apps on your home screen. So in this case, it is set to the medium size, but you can make them a little bit smaller. They are going to look like this, or you can make them a little bit bigger. They would look, there we go. They would look like this. There's not a huge difference between the medium, large, or small size. It is just a little tweak to make it a little bit more to your liking. Now also here on the home screen settings page, you can also disable the app labels. So the apps are not going to have a name below. This is really cool if you already know what each app is. It's going to look way cooler, way cleaner, so to say. And also here on the home screen settings, you will be able to select the grid size. So on the home screen grid, we can select between 4x6 or 5x6. So you get more space with more apps. And well, same story for the app screen grid or the folder grid. You can select if you want 4 columns or 5 columns laterally. Now also here on the home screen, one of my favorite One UI 7 features is that you can expand your folders so you can access the apps directly without having to open the folder first. So if you want to expand any of your folders, the only thing you have to do is to tap and hold and then tap right here on enlarge. And well, you now have an enlarged folder, so you can access the apps directly. And well, it also looks really cool. Now also here on the home screen, I'm pretty sure you already have some widgets and you know what they are. But now with One UI 7, you can actually tap and hold and change the size of those widgets between, I think it is 6 different options. So in this case, it's not letting me make it bigger because there's a folder below, but you can technically make it bigger by expanding downward. Let's see now that I've made the folder a bit smaller. Nope, it's not letting me make it bigger. Well, it's not going to work in every app, but you generally are going to have a big amount. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sizes, and even more if the widget lets you make it even bigger. Now, that said, one of my favorite widget functionalities on this phone is that you can tap and hold and then tap on Create Stack to add more widgets on top of the one you just saw. So in this case, we can add a battery widget, and automatically we could swipe between the weather and the battery widget, and we could add as many more widgets as we pleased. So we could add 20 potential widgets right here on the same space, having way more functionality in, well, the same amount of real estate on your home screen. Now, that being said, and now that I think about it, there is actually a pretty cool semi-exclusive to the Z Flip and Z Fold phones feature that has to do with multitasking. So, as probably many of you know, if we swipe to access the multitasking mode, tap on any app, and then tap on split screen view, we can actually open 2 apps at the same time. Now, of course, like in any other Samsung phone, we can also adjust how much size each app gets. So we could have one app take most of the screen as opposed to the other. But on the Galaxy Z Flip and Z Fold, we can actually take it further, doing what's called the 9-10 mode. So in this case, we would have one app taking 90% of the real estate of the display. So we could use it almost as if it was full screen. But then we could also tap right here in the middle. there we go, and flip the mode for the other app to take 90% of the real estate. And I believe this is a much better way to do multitasking as opposed to the other options, because with the 50-50 split, you don't really get a real experience. I mean, the apps look very tiny, look very small, and you don't really have a good time using them. But on the 90-10 mode, you get essentially full screen app experience with the versatility of a tap for you to switch between the two. So you essentially have two full screen apps readily accessible. But anyways, that being said, let's come back here to the main settings page. Let's swipe all the way down to device care, and let's optimize the phone, tapping on optimize now. This is essentially going to run a background check to optimize your apps, your multitasking, every process on the phone to give you a slightly better experience. And even though it is not really that necessary on a high-end phone like this, in 2, 3, 4 years, when this is no longer a high-end phone, you are going to get a noticeable speed and performance bump by coming here to device care and optimizing the phone. Now, this is something you can also do specifically to your memory. So if you come to the memory page, you will be able to clean the memory so you get a little bit more space and the phone works a little bit better. But I have to be honest, that is actually not that necessary. The only thing that I heavily recommend you do here on the device care page is to come once again to the memory tab and to enable RAM Plus. This is the coolest feature that I have ever seen on a Samsung phone or any other phone regarding your memory or your optimization. So essentially what RAM Plus is doing on your phone is it's taking part of your SSD or NVMe memory, your internal storage, and it's converting that memory into RAM. So instead of having just 12 gigabytes of RAM like you get on this phone, you get an additional 2, 4, 6, 8, or 12 gigabytes of RAM. So in this case, if you tap on 12, you would actually get 24 gigabytes of functional RAM on the Z Flip 7, giving you way more headroom for multitasking, multiple apps running in the background, and generally a much better experience. Now, in my case, I have it set to 8 because I think that's already kind of overkill. That's 20 gigabytes of RAM. I'm not really sure you're going to need more, but you have the option to add up to 12. So yeah, this is really cool, and I always recommend, even if it's 2 to 4 gigabytes, I'm not really sure you're going to need those 2 to 4 gigabytes on your SSD. You can turn them into RAM and essentially have a much better experience with your multitasking, with your apps in general. The performance of the phone is going to be better. So yeah, come here to RAM Plus and enable the feature. But anyways, that being said, and also here on the main settings page, I believe there's also some customization we have to do regarding the display. In this case, the main display on the phone. So of course, we are going to get the typical light versus dark mode option on the phone. We can select between adaptive brightness or manual brightness. We can of course also select the motion smoothness between adaptive up to 120 Hertz or standard up to 60 Hertz. Then you also have the eye comfort shield, which is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated features on this phone. It is going to adjust the colors, the color tone on the display to match the environment for a more comfortable experience. And well, also, if you are really worried about your blue light before sleep, you can also turn on adaptive color tone. A little bit below, you also have your screen mode between vivid, which is the traditional Samsung style, and natural, which mimics the more natural looking, less sharp, less punchy colors from the iPhone. You can select your font and screen size. You can select the screen zoom. You can, of course, select a screen timeout, unfortunately only up to 10 minutes. Not really sure why. I would like for there to be a forever option. This essentially is going to set the amount of time that it takes for the phone to automatically turn off. So if you have it up to 30 seconds, in 30 seconds of an activity, the display is going to turn off. If you have it set to 10 minutes, it would take 10 minutes of inactivity for the display to turn off. And of course, we also have the navigation options. In this case, we can choose between buttons, which would be the traditional Samsung layout of going back, going home, and accessing the multitasking menu. And we can select the swiping gestures to go back like this, to go home like this, and to access the multitasking like that. And well, as a bonus feature here on the navigation bar menu, we have Circle to Search, which is an AI feature for Samsung phones. Now, I have to be honest, I'm not really sure why this is on the navigation bar menu, but the Circle to Search feature essentially lets you, I think it's by tapping and holding, there we go, and then you circle an object, and the phone is going to look for that object using AI to tell you what it is and where you can find it and where you can buy it if it's something you can buy. It came out last year for high-end Samsung phones. Of course, this phone, being a high-end Samsung phone from this year, is going to have that feature. But anyways, I think that is more than enough for you to properly get started with a flip phone. These were essentially mostly all of the functionalities that are exclusive to Flip. Most of the important functionalities for Samsung phones, I think you're covered. If you have any question regarding anything that I said in this video, please tell me down below. And if not, I sincerely hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again very soon. Peace.